It was a brilliant first session in this second day of the virtual study visit in Lithuania with our Lithuanian colleagues and friends. We learned a lot. Supported employment is a challenge for all of us, especially in Macedonia. We are really working hard on that, and we have a lot of road to cover to reach a point of the things that you have presented to us. But as I said, here is the future. Here is where we are going. Here is our direction in any way or another. And today, in the second part, we will get information and knowledge and skills and competencies from a very, very interesting service that we don't have it yet in Macedonia, but gradually we will develop it. And that is, how do we provide support for decision making in a structured and organized way, and not just as part of counseling? Because in counseling, in supporting our clients, one way or another, we are talking about various aspects of life, and we are doing a lot of solving problems and problem solving. But this approach of a specialized service for decision making is something different, is something innovative, is something unique, and it is an opportunity for us to learn. And here is Goda, and Goda, you have the floor. Please.
Yeah, I think it's my colleague starting. Yeah, but theoretical part, Dovile.
Okay, I'm here. Nice to meet you. Hello, everyone, and a little bit about me. I am Dovile Sabaliauskaitė, a specialist of supported decision making of Walakupiai Rehabilitation Center. And as our moderator said, today I will introduce into the support in decision making, explain and tell about users' needs and engagement, tools and methods, and staff needed skills, results, and how we are doing and providing it. Yes, I would like to share my presentation. Yeah. We make simple and daily decisions every day, and we don't even think about them. We all engage in support and decision making. When we seek assistance from a doctor, lawyer, or accountant, we are asking that person to serve as an advisor, helping us to understand the issue, asking the advisor to offer us choices and explain the risks and benefits of the options, to answer our questions, and ultimately to support us while allowing us to make choices. The spectrum of issues where support in decision making will provide benefit will vary based on the person's health, life experience, and ability. A person with mental disorders, less experience or ability, will need advice and guidance with a broader range of issues than a healthier person who has more life experience and greater ability. 7,000 incapacitated people due to mental disorders are living in Lithuania. Decisions for them are made by other persons or institutions. And this is a challenge that support in decision making is trying to solve. Let's start with laws and attitudes. Just a minute. Support in decision making is described in Article 12 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Disabilities. I have one thing, yes, and disabilities. which emphasizes that all persons with disabilities have the right to legal capacity on an equal basis with others in all areas of life. And countries are obligated to take appropriate measures to enable persons with disabilities to benefit from the legal assistance they may require to exercise their legal capacity. The right to legal capacity cannot be derived from or depend on a person's mental capacity. The realization and implementation of legal capacity means that each person is a decision maker and can make independent decisions in all areas of life, including healthcare, accommodation, place of residence, work, personal relationships, finances, personal property and non-property issues. The Convention establishes a new model decision-making assistance, committing to the development and implementation of new forms and methods of assistance that do not restrict the rights of individuals and, above all, offer them assistance in making independent decisions based on respect for the will of the individual. What is a service? Supporting decision-making is a personal decision-making process where the decision-maker uses the help of specialists of a team of specialists, in our law 2 to 5 people, to decide on a person's health, social participation, personal property and non-property issues based on decision-maker's desire and right of choice. The aim of the service is to improve a person's ability to take care of themselves and make daily decisions in order to achieve independent living and participation in all areas of life, as I said before, social participation, personal health, and property and non-property issues. What is the benefits of people engagement? First of all, both people receiving and delivering service can understand what's important to the person. People feel supported and empowered to make informed choices and reach a decision about well-being. Supporting decision-making specialists can tailor the service to the needs of the individual. This slide is very important for me because we have possibility to hear principles, what sometimes every specialist have to take and to try to be on the side of the client, of the user's side. Understand me and my preferences. Give me the right assistance. Experience to explore. Explore all options. Remember, it's up to me. All my decisions and all my wishes, it's up to me. I can change my mind. Are the right person involved? One decision at a time. Assume I can. Our target group are people with mental disorders, with moderate and serious mental disorders, living in reorganized social care institutions and in the community. They are persons of working age diagnosed with a disease according to International Classification of Diseases, called F number 10, organic, including symptomatic mental disorders. Our client and their types of disabilities are moderate mental disability, schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, autism spectrum syndrome, and other. What is the role of a specialist? Really, in first our steps, we tried to find out what we have now to do. And then we discovered what we have to do and what is our role. The specialist helps to express views and wishes, to explore choices and options, helps to make daily decisions, helps to understand the information in a way and make a decision in a way what the client understands, in an easy to read and understandable language format or other methods. For example, we have very interesting case. One of my colleagues worked with client who have possibility to understand information when she's singing. And really, when she wants to explain some important, she's singing. And the client understands and answers her as she. Assists in considering alternative to the solution and presents the person's position or decision to third parties. Helps a person to understand and defend their rights. What is a staff and what have possibility to provide the service? Yes. Ideally, help is provided by a group of people that the person trusts. First of all, there are members of a family and friends, and then professionals. Person providing the assistance have need official status either by a court or by a formal agreement. For example, our whole team works with agreements. Assistance may be provided by a person who has become an expert by reason of his personal situation. Walakupiaи rehabilitation center teams consist of various professions, mostly social workers who have experience working with people with disabilities. I have experience working with blind people and a little bit with people with mental disabilities. But I have a member of my family who many years has a mental disorder, and I think that I became an expert by my personal situation. Supported decision-making specialists, first of all, have to be empathetic. It represents only the interest of the person. It is very, very important. Be independent and be on the side of the person and no one else. It is very important. Listen to the person they are working with, find the issues that they can help them with. Give the person information about their options for addressing the issues. When we started with the service, it is very interesting and very service who needs a huge creative knowledge, fantasy maybe sometimes. And we tried to think what we have, what we want to improve, what skills, and made a list of trainings or topics. Self-advocacy and speak-up skills, disability awareness, communication skills, anger management, be aware and not scared, budgeting, responsibility and consequences, running meetings, different relationships, being treated fairly, leadership, how to cooperate with others, rights, and much more. For example, last autumn, we organized a small conference, a small meeting, where our clients first time speaks and talk about this service, about themselves, and We have possibility to show speaking how was improved speaking up skills, what is communication, leadership. They spoke about rights. It was a really very interesting event. What is the tools? Of course, we use nothing special, nothing new. I think all social workers work with similar tools: individual consultation and group meetings, trainings, creative tasks, game roles, board games, competitions, quiz, reading information, video information, conference, meetings, city events, exhibitions, educational activities, and much more. What is important that all our work is very individual, and of course some of them is can be adapted to one person and not maybe to other person. For example, we visited a very interesting event in National Library. We saw movie with famous Lithuanian singer, and the movie was very interesting because it was about relationships, about father and son's relationships, about teenagers' problems, about young people problems. And we all wanted to visit this film except one girl, because she was afraid crowded places and dark in the room. And well, it is one of examples. Ingredients for successful support in decision making are individual approach, as I said, the quality of the relationship. It is very important. Trustful and good relationship. Start with small decisions and work up to bigger ones. Link similarities to previous decisions made. Practice make perfect. Document the process. Account for how will and preference was identified. Results, what we will expect and what we want to expect. Supported decision making is a viable alternative as a way to address personal incapacity and example of new community services. Increased personal's ability to take care of yourself and make daily decisions in order to achieve independent living and participation in all areas of life. Supported decision-making protects the human and constitutional rights of persons with disabilities and raises society to a higher level of well-being. Now I will show you one video, which filmed one of my clients. His name is Rokas, and it was his decision to make himself. So let's start.
Hello, my name is Rokas. I come from a small town of Vishnis, which is situated in the southwestern part of Lithuania. I live in Vilnius for almost 7 years. I am almost 38 years old. I studied in several universities, but I didn't finish any studies except studies in Vilnius Technology and Business Vocational Training Center, which lasted for 2 years. I studied history in Vilnius University for 1 year. I studied Catholic theology in Polish Catholic John Paul II's Lublin University for 3 years. Then I also studied Catholic theology for almost 2 years in Vytautas the Great University in Kaunas, Lithuania. I worked as a waiter in a wine restaurant in 2008-2010. I worked in a post office for several months, and I worked in supermarkets as a cashier for more than 3 years. I got sick while working in a supermarket as a cashier. After 4 months after leaving a job, I agreed to be hospitalized, and after hospitalization, I was diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. After hospital, I became a disabled person, and every month I started to receive money from the state for my disability. I joined IT courses for disabled persons, which lasted for about half a year. Then I became a cleaner, where I work until now. After I found out I was sick, I had no wish to take care of myself in my everyday life. I mean, cleaning my room, washing myself, washing my clothes. I seldom wanted to meet my friends, and I didn't want to make new friends. I became more and more self-isolated. I think the supported decision-making service is useful for me. The supporter who works with me from time to time wants to meet and talk with me. This is the main benefit for me, because, as I said earlier, I'm really self-isolated person, and I hardly find a reason to go out somewhere with somebody. Now, with the help of the supporter, we go out and talk different topics. The supporter gives me decision support in social and health areas. For example, when I no longer wanted to meet with one group of people who prepare for sacraments, she advised me not to meet them. Or when we talked about my health issues, she gave me a website with information about schizophrenia and advised me, contrary to my wish, not to refuse medicine. With this project, I really feel more involved in a social life, participation in cultural and community events. I was invited to watch a movie in National Library of Martynas Mažvydas, where one of the main roles was played by a famous Lithuanian singer. I also watched interesting spectacle in Polish House of Culture. The supporter with her colleague organized a meeting of project participants near famous writer Pushkin's museum here in Vilnius. We played games, drank coffee, ate snacks, had a walk around the museum. It was a nice experience. I would recommend supported decision-making service to people with intellectual or psychosocial disabilities, because this service not only helps you personally to deal with your problems with the help of the supporter, but it also involves you in social and cultural life.
Yes. One moment I would like to drive your attention. Rokas said me that he wants to stop medicine, and it really was. I was surprised because he looks a man who is critical and very, how to say, responsible and honest. And when I asked him why he decided to stop, he answered and explained me that he trusts, he believes that our bodies have possibility to treat themselves. And he thinks that medicine is a chemistry and not useful for him. And his body have possibility to treat and to care without medicine. We discussed a little bit about that. I have no question, had no answer. And after consulted with my colleague, with psychologist, and asked her, is it possible? And what is schizophrenia, the illness that we have to treat without medicine? Colleague explained me that it's really not a good way, and I have to find how to explain him and how to change maybe his mind or to information about his illness. We work on that topic about 2 months. During our meetings, we discussed about illness, about different situations, about risks, about the situation in what he was before he was hospitalized and lost his job and his friends and his family. Then I found interesting movies about schizophrenia, about young people who has this illness, this disorder. And documentary different information, and we talk and talk and talk, and I advised him to speak with his doctor. And after 2 months, during one meeting, he said me a very interesting thing. But he made a decision not to stop medicine. And he thinks that his thoughts were about his illness was one reason why he wanted to stop medicine. He didn't accept his illness. He didn't accept that he has schizophrenia. And now he is more and more on the way to accept and to be and to live with his illness. This example shows that my role was to take advice, not to make decisions, but to take advice, to search, to think about that, to compare examples and to read information and so on and so on. Sorry. Yes, I would like to summarize my report and draw your attention that supporting decision-making allows person with a disability to make decisions or choices with advice, assistance, and guidance from supporters of their choice. The role of the supporter is to help the person understand the issues, options, and choices, to offer advice, but ultimately to allow the person to make a decision, choice, or preference, and to help as needed to carry out the choice of the person. Supporting decision-making service is a person-centered planning process and a person-driven decision-making model that should be incorporated into social care planning. Supported decision-making is a viable alternative as a way to address personal incapacity and an example of new community services. This new community service protects the human and constitutional rights of persons with disabilities and raises society to a higher level of well-being. Thank you very much. I wish that you will accept what was useful for you, and maybe you have some questions.
Dovi, what an interesting presentation. What can I say? I'm grateful. I think all of us, we are. You gave us a lot of food for thought. It is interesting what you tell us. I will draw one very important lesson, and I will open the floor. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions from my friends. The case that you showed us, it was very, very exemplary, because it indicates sometimes the dilemmas of the professional, the challenges of our own biases and of our own stereotypes, of our own belief systems, if you want. When it comes to mental health, it is a very interesting way. How do we understand it? I mean, let me be blunt and truthful. 9 out of 10 professionals, if one of our users said to us, I will cut my medication, 9 out of 10 of us, we would say, no, don't do it, don't do it. And this don't do it, it's a decision that we are taking for them, for her. And how do you cope with one challenge? And yes, okay, here is meditation, right? Medication. But it could have been many other aspects of life, similar dilemmas, where our belief systems are very clear and very flat and very organized. And we are reflecting these belief systems into our clients because we know what is good for them. And that is exactly what decision making is not about.
Yeah, really, you get a sense of our service because first of all it was very clumsy, and we all were confused how to work, how to work, because we are social workers, and how to say, we are honest, good workers, and want to help people and to make all the best for them. But this way is different way. We are supporters. We are no social workers. We have no to brush teeth or here, cut here, or prepare food. We are supporters. We listen. We have to create very deep and trustful relationship. As I said, it's very important, very deep. And we have to be nearby and listen and practice. Yeah, Goda, my colleague this afternoon will show many examples and many interesting cases. So I think it's my first thing was to introduce the support decision-making service.
I want to ask you something, Dovil, and I'm sure that everybody in our group today, we are still 60 people. Thank you very much for staying and retaining your presence, by the way. Dovil, one question before you go. What are the most difficult decisions that you have to deal with? I mean, usually, from your experience, what are the decisions that you have to cope with? I mean, what are the ones that you are asked from your users to give them help to decide? To decide what? To stay at home or leave, to make a relationship with somebody? I mean, I know that Doka is going to give us a lot of specific examples, but in average and from your experience altogether, because it is the interesting thing in the beginning, you show us the different things, the legal dimension and the mental dimension in terms of the decision making. So what are the most difficult decisions that you have to cope with?
Yes, I understand. All our clients are very, very different people, very individual, very different people. And sometimes we have to connect them to go in deep relationship 2 months or 3 months and listen. What is a fantasy? What is the person wishes? And for me, was very difficult to be here and to advise for my client who wants to be a priest. He wants to be a priest. I understand that he has a mental disorder and he wants to be a priest. And I thought and how to say and how to be near and how to advise him what to do. And step by step, we decided to collect information, to call for the priests, to communicate, to improve skills communication, to find the different religion groups of society and community where he can be useful, not as a priest, but as a person who believes in God. I don't have an answer. I think that is very individual and very depends on deep relationship and creative of supporter.
I want to say something finally, and hopefully I understand that this is quite new and maybe our colleagues have a lot of food for thought and they are thinking, but I want to say something from what I got from the experience also that you share with us, but also from other experiences. What is clear is what you said about this, what is the attitude of the staff involved in decision-making support. It is devotion and caring and openness to learn and to become also yourself as a professional more knowledgeable and more open and more active listener. It's not about a kind of professional who sees himself or herself as I'm just doing my job. And in the end of the day, I know that quite a lot of us, we are taking pride in our work and working with disadvantaged people, people which are vulnerable or in vulnerable parts of their lives. Quite a lot of times is not very rewarding because there are not a lot of results, obvious results.
Yeah, really. And when we speak about what goal we have to achieve, it's very different because one day I have one goal, next day maybe my wishes are changeable. As I spoke in my presentation, one slide of principles from the side of the client is very changeable. And to show the results, very concrete results, it's sometimes not very easy.
Absolutely, absolutely. Anybody that would like to take the floor and ask some questions on decision making? Yes, Ivana, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. Like Maria said, it was very interesting. I have a very specific question. Is this type of a service, supported decision making, is defined in any law, perhaps in a law on social protection or law for social services, or is it a service that your center has developed? That is my first question.
Really, this service is a new service. It is not a social service in our law. It is a pilot. Do you understand what I mean?
Yes,
a pilot service. And not in all Lithuania it works. Lithuania is 10 regions. This project is going on 5 regions, and we are on the way as pioneers who, after our project, will, on our experience, on basis of our experience, will be created a law document, a policy, how does it will work, and model and methods and so on.
Okay, thank you. And I would ask you, maybe you could give me this answer. What are your experiences or practices with people who had deprivation of legal capacity? Do you understand me? And that are placed under guardianship.
They are under guardianship according to their legal status.
Yes, maybe I don't.
Do they come to your center? Maybe, do you work with them?
Maybe I could.
Concrete in my group, my clients group, I have no incapacity person. They are with a moderate mental disorders, and my colleague Goda will speak about their clients I think she has an capacity person. But I have a few girls who lives in social housing, and it is very interesting position, because I am not a social worker. I am not work with. I work a little bit with social workers from social housing, but sometimes our opinions not goes on the one way. For example, one girl decided to be independent on finance and to break agreement in this position in finance support with their social worker. It was a very difficult situation. Supporter was angry. And her behavior was not as professional, because the girl was scared and she was afraid. She was crying, and one reason she wanted to try to be independent in finance service, in finance area. So I think that my work was as example how she decided to try to be independent. But we have conflict with social worker, because I am only on the user side.
Yes, I understand. Thank you. And do they receive some kind of document, I don't know, when they end this service? The person with disability does receives anything from your side?
What document? Sorry.
When a person with disability ends the service at your center, do they receive some kind of documentation? I don't know.
Yes, of course. Yes, we made an individual plan with each of our clients. We create together individual plan, and together have make a decision what goals we want to achieve. And after every hour meeting, we fill as a diary the consultation, the event, what we were founded, what the goal of our consultation was, and what we want to do next time, when, in what time, and our clients attending this service 1 year with possibility to continue agreement if this is necessary in the mind of my client and what I think about. Yes, we have documentary, and we have forms. You have to fill participation, different forms, and other. Yeah, it's not so briefly.
Thank you very much.
I propose that we take Goda's presentation, because it's very relevant, because we will talk about specific users. Then we have a short break, and then we come back with more questions and discussions. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tobin. It was...
Be safe, be healthy. Maybe we'll see you in live meetings in the future.
Hopefully. So, Goda, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes.
And can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great news. Okay. So, if I speak too quickly or too slow, please interrupt, and feel free to ask questions in between if you have any. So I'm going to talk about the practice of my work, and yeah, a bit about me. So I'm together with the Ville supported decision-making specialist. I will use this SDM shortening of this profession in this presentation to save some time. This is how I usually look like in my office, and I use a mask, and you will later see what my office looks like. I started working half a year ago. By education, I'm not a social worker, but I'm a biologist. And regarding my working experience, so I've had experience with environmental project management. And what I find extremely useful in my current job was HR business partner position for 3 years, where I worked with employee motivation, engagement, and leadership training, and all the other kind of trainings. I previously volunteered in prison and with kids with disabilities. Currently, I have 6 clients, and this is my office, which I adore. This means that I usually, as this is a quarantine time in Lithuania due to the pandemic, I usually meet my clients. 2 of them I talk to via phone because they do not live in Vilnius. And with the other 4, I'm walking, maybe in the forests, with some of them near their house or near their homes. And so this is how my office looks like. I also wanted to show that the link where I found extremely useful information about Swedish methodology about supported decision making, which I find extremely efficient and interesting. And I also wanted to say that I really love my job because it gives me a lot of freedom, and I want it or not, learning and developmental possibilities and a lot of flexibility. And also an interesting fact, I visited Skopje some 25 years ago, where I was actually playing tennis professionally. And however, all I remember from that time in Skopje was that there was a huge mountain near the tennis court where I was playing. So it's a very strong memory in my head, as we do not have mountains in Vilnius, only small hills. So it was a very special moment. Yeah, so, and today I will talk about 3 things, mainly the working phases of supported decision making, some real cases with my clients, and recommendations for you. So this is how the working phases look like. These are 3 main green phases: the initial phase, the working phase as such, and the end phase. And during the initial phase, we have some subphases. You see, this is the first contact with the client, then the building of trust and with the client, which sometimes takes in between 2 months and a half year. Then we build the support network for the client, which is very needed, especially to have a smooth end phase of the service. And by building support network, I mean that we sometimes just find some maybe relatives or maybe friends for that particular person who could take over this taking care of this person, let's say client, even though I don't like this word client here, but when the service ends. Then we have the action plan. And by action plan, I mean we have to answer the question what the client needs and how I can help the client. It's not my opinion how I think I could help the client, but it's the client's opinion. And I have to hear and listen to and be client-oriented on this here. And by knowing what, for example, the client might say, I have a schizophrenia and I'm having medication, but the medication has very strong side effects and I want to change my medication. So for example, this may be a long-term goal, and we can make an action plan how to achieve what the client needs. It can be different meetings with the doctors, with one doctor, another doctor, to hear some different opinions from the professionals, and then we can probably achieve the goal together. And in the action plan, I have noticed by working with my clients that not all the people with mental disabilities are actually able to express their needs. And even sometimes if a person is, for example, saying, I have one long-term goal, and this is that, for example, I want to change my medication because of side effects. And specialists in Sweden, for example, they use the SCAN method, which is called Camberwell Assessment of Need method for people with disabilities, to identify the client's needs. And it's a special questionnaire. However, even though you seem to understand the client's need, let's say shift from one to another medication, but the CAN method still can show that there are some other issues the client wants to work with. For example, there may be some hygiene issues. The client maybe is not really, doesn't feel okay like talking about it, but the questionnaire results may show that there is an issue. And if the client agrees, we can still also work with some other problems. And then we have implementation phase of the action plan, which usually takes the longest. Then we have assessment, where the client assesses whether we succeeded in achieving his goal or not. And more or less the end of communication. And there's one tiny picture in the implementation phase that, for example, specialists in Sweden, they usually have a lot of meetings in the implementation side, where they meet, it depends on what kind of goal you are trying to achieve, but it can be meeting with different stakeholders. And by the way, Swedes usually like meetings, so there are one meeting after another. So, okay, and as I have mentioned you that I'm only working half a year in this position, so I really do not have so many tangible results yet. But I thought I would show one Swedish example, let's say of John, and his situation before the service and his situation after the service was provided to him. So John it's a real case, so you can grab how different the life may seem for a person after the supported decision-making service was provided. He lived in a normal family, however, he had difficult adolescence and a few suicide attempts. Later on, he was diagnosed with schizophrenia and had some other diagnoses. He had long-term care in psychiatric hospital, some psychosomatic diseases. He was overweight, passive, and shy. After the SDM service was provided, John did acquire his own apartment, because all these things I will be telling now, these were John's long-term goals he has achieved with the SDM service specialist. He now has a girlfriend and 2 cats, got driving license, sings in a choir, and lives an independent life with support. So you see how much more colorful John's life may seem after the service was provided to him. And even though I have 6 clients, I will maybe show you the information about 4 of them to save your time, but I will send you the presentation about 6 of my clients. So one of the most difficult clients for me, let's say it's Leo. He's 40 years. All the information is a bit changed, so that's not to identify the client because we have all the confidentiality agreements, but more or less the essence you will be able to understand, I think. And I got the picture of a donkey from a very famous cartoon because Leo reminds me of that donkey in a way that he is always sad. He's always kind of in a victim mode. But also very interesting and very masculine and yeah. One of the many challenges I faced during when I started working in this position was actually that we had to find clients to really be able to work. So, and you can imagine that when you really do not know, you do not have any methodology, you do not know how to work, you do not know how to achieve and what kind of goals to achieve and how you should in general work. And you had to find these clients who would be willing to get the service. So I tried to read the Swedish methodology in the very beginning and wrote some kind of brochures, which I sent to some of my friends. And one of my friends was just a teacher in an adult school where Leo was also studying. And she just gave him a brochure, and he got interested in the service. So this is how he contacted me. Talking about diagnosis, so he has a mild intellectual disability, depression, and cerebral palsy. We talk by phone because he's not living in Vilnius, and we talk 2 times per week for 1 hour. His long-term goal was very clear from the very first meeting. He said that I want to find a girlfriend. And when I talk about short-term goals, I wanted to say that short-term goals are needed to build trust, to build trustful relationship with the client. So what I did with Leo to build that trust with him, as he had dyslexia as well, however, he started reading now. There's a kind of a program called Team Viewer program, and I can connect to his computer, and with my mouse, I just highlight him the words he has to read, and he is reading with my support, because with no support he's not able to do that. I also try to find the information for him about some of the services like personal assistant service and all the other things. I really do many. There are actually many short-term goals with him. Leo's day, he's living with his mother, watching TV quite a lot during the day. He's, as mentioned, studying in an adult school via distance, and I put it in red. You will later on understand why. He drinks no medication, and there's no other service being provided to him except for supported decision-making service. As for his personality, he has very strong mood swings, always feeling a victim, and lacks social skills. And you can imagine that if a person is lacking social skills, how it may be difficult to even think about finding a girlfriend, because I will give you an example, because when he, for example, writes messages via Facebook Messenger with some girl he wants to be friends with, and he tries to call her and she doesn't pick up the phone, he immediately regards the situation is like, she doesn't want to be friends with me, she hates me, she doesn't like me. So, and I usually work so much with him to try to give another perspective about why she may have not picked up the phone, what may have happened to her. Maybe she was not near her computer, maybe something happened, maybe, I don't know. So I usually feel as if I'm working as a psychologist with him as well. And Leo hates lying, and he's a very open himself and also demanding. Sorry, I'm just yeah. And how SDM service helps him. So what I do in practice for Leo, I write several brochures, very well designed, that Leo is searching for a girlfriend, and with his agreement, we put it into his Facebook. We also send out quite many brochures to many organizations unifying people with disabilities. I also support him by formulating Facebook Messenger messages when he communicates with some potential girlfriends and with other people, because as I said earlier, he's very straightforward and he's saying things straightforward, and I usually kind of try to again explain him, okay, Leo, if you are going to write in this way, you can I mean the reaction may be like this. And if you write in this way, the reaction may be this. So, and results reached so far, I'm personally very happy that Leo knows from the very first contact what he wants. So we are not kind of, so at least I know where we are going to. It's a very kind of direct way. Whether we are going to achieve this goal or not, it's another thing, but we are working towards a very concrete goal. And by sending these brochures that he's willing to find a girlfriend, there were some organizations unifying people with disabilities who contacted him and who invited him to actually, this was a very specific one daycare center in Vilnius, who invited Leo to join some video meetings each week. So he's participating, very happy about that, and he found some friends there as well. Challenges. Leo has delusions time to time, and it hinders our work. So I think that we could probably maybe reach some kind of results more quickly, but with those days when he has delusions and he's like, I don't know, so it's very difficult. And we also talk about emotions a lot, and I have also suggested, okay, I'll say it in this way. For example, in Sweden, a supported decision-making specialist is also the one who has to point out to the client what kind of other services the client is able to find, what kind of free services he is able to get. And I have pointed out to Leo, according to my practice with him, that he might get a free, for example, psychologist consultations, and quite many of them actually for free. However, he rejects this, and I really think that we are getting back to why I put this phrase that he drinks no medication and he is not willing to get any other service but the service I'm providing. So I think this is also kind of hindering our success in our service. There may be some questions here, but I think I will go to another client. Client number 2, let's say she's Beatrice, she's 45, and I have a Sleeping Beauty picture. Beauty, she likes just compliments, she likes looking beautifully herself, and her life goal is beauty as such. And however, I call her Sleeping Beauty because I think that she really doesn't know what she wants from her life and how I could help her. So for me, she's a bit still sleeping. Yeah, how I found Beatrice was she attends a daycare center, and this is a daycare center where I wanted to volunteer some years ago, and I just wrote my brochure about SDM service that I'm searching for clients. And I also wrote a bit informal, some informal sentences that I really like your daycare center and I really wanted to volunteer. And I also wrote why I didn't approach them. So they got interested in me, and they actually provided me with 2 clients. So I'm working with clients from the center. Beatrice has mild intellectual disability. We're walking and talking a lot near her home. We usually spend 2 hours 2 times per week, already each week, a bit before we had each second week some meetings. Sorry, it's not Leo's, it's Beatrice's long-term goals. So she doesn't know what she wants, and this is why we are still in the initial phase, and we have not yet approached any kind of making her individual plan. So this is why I put it in red. And for short-term goals, I help her with shopping, to buy some food, to usually buying some food, but this is Beatrice's mother's idea. So again, this is not the Beatrice idea, and this is why I put it in red again. How Beatrice's day looks like: she's living with her mother and her disabled brother, and she attends together with her brother, who's also my client, but I will not talk about him maybe today, but send some more information later. They are both attending daycare center for people with disabilities each day. From personality perspective, Beatrice is very dependent on her mother, extremely suppressing her emotions. Again, doesn't know what she wants, but is joyful, likes music, singing and dancing, making food. And I definitely think that with some support, she could live on her own. and even have a job. How SDM service helps her. We talk a lot about emotions and a lot about negative emotions, even though I think there are no negative and positive emotions. All emotions are equally good because they help us to understand and to hear us. But she, for example, asks me a lot about how I talk to my kids about anger, about hatred, and I kind of try to explain it from the kids' perspective, let's say, because she's mostly interested in that. And of course, she applies it to herself. Yeah, I also, this was my idea, and I thought that maybe she could, it's about building that support network. We created an email address for her. And she's very happy about it now. However, again, it was not her idea to do that, so I cannot say that we have reached any kind of results here. So results so far, I can see, for example, we have changed one shop to another because she was bullied sometimes in the previous shop where we used to go with her. Some shopping assistants just bullied her openly, and I was really shocked about that, and I proposed to go to another shop. Again, this was not her idea to change the shop, but when we changed the shop, she was extremely happy about that. And I think that in a way she's becoming more expressing what she wants. However, as I said, we are still in the initial phase because she's not dictating me how we should work still. Sorry, and challenges, again, she doesn't know what she wants still, and of course it's a lot about working with Beatrice's mother, whom she's living, and sometimes it seems to me that if Beatrice is more freely expressing her emotions, she is becoming a bit inconvenient child to her mother. And again, her mother is relatively old, and I think if something happens with her mother, I personally think that my service would be extremely of use for Beatrice, especially then, but maybe not now. Okay, and 2 more clients. I'm working with 2 autistic people, and both are nonverbals, and yeah, how I found both of them. The first, Daniel, I saw a video about autistic people, and this was when I was desperate to find some clients, and I wrote, and this was all in the video, it was also his mother speaking, apart from some specialists. So I contacted the mother, and she, whether Daniel would love to get this supported decision-making service, and she was extremely happy about that, and this is how we contacted each other. And about Andrew, so I was desperate in finding some more clients, so I asked somebody to post my brochure in a closed group for autistic people, and this is how I found Andrew. Both are have the same diagnosis, autistic disorder. And with both of them, I'm actually walking because they are nonverbals, but this is a very different way of walking. With Daniel, he's got a lot of tension, so we play a lot of hand games. We are running fast sometimes. We do stretching exercises, and we throw tennis ball. This is what he loves to do. But this is a very how to say this, but we usually walk. It depends on his mood. We walk more fast or slower, but it's walking. And with Andrew, so he likes cars, so we sometimes stop near cars and look at them, and he gathers tree branches for me, and makes a bouquet of tree branches. And when he's in a bad mood, I am dancing for him in the street, sometimes, let's say, some rap music, and I'm singing, because when I sing some operas, so he starts laughing extremely a lot, and this is how I cheer him up. How often I meet with them? So it's like 3.5 hours once per week with Daniel and 2 hours twice per week with Andrew. We don't have long-term goals with them because, as agreed with parents, it's simply walking and it's simply occupational. I think it's more occupational service, but not really supported decision-making service. We don't have, let's say, short-term goals in this case, but for example, with Daniel, so he likes, now in Lithuania we have spring and there are some grasses. As I'm a biologist, so I know some actually plants, and he likes eating some plants. So I just pick some useful plants and he likes eating. So it's just for fun, but this is also what we are doing. How their day look like? Daniel is attending his school far day, and then once per week he's walking with me, and four other times per week he's walking with another person. He's going home at 5 p.m. to his parents' place, and Andrew is each day in daycare center for people with disabilities and live with his parents. From personality perspective, this is what unites them is the diagnosis and the thing that they are nonverbals, but they are extremely different because Daniel likes jumping, playing hand games, active walking, running, and he likes touching and has a lot of mood swings and can be aggressive to others and himself, and he needs support 24/7. And Andrew, he adores cars, he's funny, he doesn't like touching, and he's non-aggressive, and again, support is needed 24/7. How SDM service helps? So in both cases is releasing tension, and as mentioned before, it's more occupational service in my mind. It's not really service, it's not really supported decision-making service. And the results reached so far, I really don't know what to say here, because I personally don't think that these clients should be the target group of our service we are providing. But as they matched all the requirements of potential clients, and this is how I found them, this is why I'm still working with them. And by the way, they are one of my favorite clients, even though I'm not supposed to say so. And so I have really good contact with each of them. And yeah, so the main problem is that they are not really able to identify their own needs. And neither of them is able to talk with cards, with any kind of simple language, computer, nothing. But I don't know, I think I simply understand them. At least I get what their mood is and what they really want at this moment. But there should have been this half a year working together to have this understanding. Yeah, and this is my last slide, recommendations for you. Before I start with recommendations, I wanted to say that there was a question before about deprivation of rights of our clients, and whether I have some of the clients like these. So I definitely have clients who have been deprived of their rights, and according to our ministry of who is managing this project, where so they usually say that this service we are providing, supported decision-making service, is mainly intended for those people who have been deprived of their rights, so that they could maybe regain their rights, or I mean, feel more feel that they are able to take some decisions themselves. So it's really not for people who have slight depression, or let's say some let's say easy diseases, but it's mainly meant for people with more complex diagnoses who have been deprived of their rights. Yeah, the first recommendation is, again, the same what Davila already mentioned, that supported decision-making specialist advocates no one but the client only. So I really should not care about what my client's mother wants, what his or her brother wants, or what the municipality wants. I am only working to advocate my client. Yeah, and I've been focusing on long-term goals. So I have to know what the client wants, and this is how I find direction of where I have to go as a specialist myself. And maybe it's an interesting to share that in Sweden, they in some municipalities in Sweden, they meet potential clients and they ask them what kind of thing you want to achieve with the supported decision-making service, and only then, by getting to know what the client really needs, they decide whether or not the service should be provided for the client or not. Of course, it's very important to promote SDM service. For me, it was important to do that because, of course, I had to find the clients first. And now it's important just because we anyway have to deal with, for example, some other social workers who are working in the field of social work, not really supported decision making. We also have to deal with doctors sometimes, so we have to promote our service so that others know what we are doing and why we kind of are coming to some kind of doctor to advocate the client. Yeah, I think this is one of the most important things, that you have to decide very clearly what is the target group of yours in the service and what is not the target group. So only my personal opinion, for example, as my two clients who have autism and they are both nonverbals, I really think that they are not the target group of the service. And if you have any priorities, you should also list the priorities for yourself. Who should get the service? Yeah, of course, writing SDM methodology is extremely important for yourself, first of all, if you are going to give the service, and for the society and for potential clients. As this service is new, it is also very important to have the audience whom you could talk to your problems, everyday problems. I personally really had quite a lot of issues, and together with Natalia and our team, also including Davila and others, we are meeting once per week for 1 hour to discuss the main challenges and to go further. Yeah, I think that one of the most important competencies for SDM specialists should be social competencies, communication competencies, and ability to connect, and that client orientation, and of course a bit of know-how about these mental disabilities. And there is also it's also mentioned in Swedish documentation that usually, you know, but clients who want to get this supported decision-making service, they may have been to so many specialists already, let's say therapists or psychologists, all the possible doctors, and they may kind of expect that the supported decision-making specialist will probably solve all of my problems, which on one hand may be true, but it may also not be true. So there may be too many expectations. And maybe regarding expectations, so we shouldn't also promise as specialists a lot of things to our clients, but just work together. And yeah, so when I'm working as a supported decision-making specialist, I have to answer myself that every day, actually, that I'm not a psychologist, I'm not a social worker, I'm not a treatment administrator, but as a supported decision-making specialist, I'm supposed to bring hope to a person and to serve as communication partner, and I'm definitely not his or her friend. Yeah, this is again the number 10 recommendation is actually a tricky one because in Sweden, support and decision-making specialists, they also have an obligation to highlight shortcomings of different authorities because they are dealing with different stakeholders. And if something is not working, so they have to point it out. And for some stakeholders, let's say for some doctors or social workers, our role may seem a bit threatening because we have to point out what maybe he or she is not doing well in their job, for example. And maybe I have already finished, but I wanted to actually say one more thing. After having read some Swedish methodologies about the service, I wanted to say that in Sweden, they already have 20 years of this supported decision-making service as a new profession. And why it has been established there, it has been established also because of deinstitutionalization process, which was not going very smooth in Sweden. And they found out that there were some people with mental disabilities who faced a lot of challenges during the institutionalization process. And by establishing this new profession of supported decision-making service, they wanted to help those people to kind of understand what kind of support they can get and from what institutions, because in Sweden the system seems a bit complicated because there are some institutions who belong to the municipality, there are some institutions belonging to the government, and for a person who was living in a psychiatric clinic, when he leaves and he wants to become more independent and maybe to live in his own apartment, it becomes a bit difficult to understand, I mean, and to realize what kind of services he's able to get and how he should proceed further. Yeah, so thanks a lot. That's it for today. Yeah, welcome with the questions if you have. I thought Maria said that we are going to have a break probably.
I would propose that we have a short break and we come back with questions. I think there is a lot of interest in the service. I personally have a lot of questions, but I have also suggestions, because I have to say to all of us that when I was a young social worker in another life, working for the first time with disability, with disabled children, autistic children, we are talking now about the early 90s. Here in Athens, I'm here at home today. My thesis was on therapeutic play for children and youth with severe disabilities and autism, and how they can build their decision. I didn't know about this service back then. I mean, I was a young social worker, wanted to do something. And the truth is that, yes, we had a kind of taster of this service. And I have some experience and some ideas to share with you, Goda, and with everybody else, because we've done it some years ago and we have a little bit of learning process and we can share.